In this explainer video, we'll be looking at how migration and labor markets are interlinked. We'll do this by specifically focusing on the effects of migration on the labor markets of countries of destination. But before we get into that, we need to first be clear about what we mean by migration and what we mean by labor markets. Migration is the movement of a person from one place to another for the purpose of residing in that new place. Migration can be of shorter distances or longer distances and periods of time. It can be within a country, which is called internal migration, or it can be across country borders, which is called international migration. The labor market refers to the supply and demand of labor, where employees provide the supply and employers provide the demand. Common indicators of the labor market are employment, unemployment, and wages. In this video, we will look at the jobs in which migrants are often overrepresented. We'll look at immigrant employment and wages and possible competition with locals. Immigrants are often more concentrated at two sides of the skills spectrum, in highly skilled jobs and in lower skilled jobs in countries of destination. This is because this is where there is most likely to be labor shortages in countries of destination. On the low-skilled end, migrants are often employed in precarious work and are often overrepresented in what are called 3D jobs, those that are dangerous, dirty, demeaning, and dull, since these are the jobs that the native population often does not want to do. Some typical sectors where we see a high concentration of immigrant labor are in care and domestic work, agricultural work, and construction. Since migrants are often more concentrated in dangerous work, research shows that this allows natives to be less often hurt on the job, since they move into other jobs that are relatively less risky. Now, if we turn our attention to highly skilled migration, there is a clear global race for talent, where especially developed economies compete to attract and retain foreign skilled labor. Highly skilled migrants are framed in public discourses and in policies as bringing multiple benefits to the destination country. Some of these benefits include increased innovation, productivity, entrepreneurship, and international networks that help to create trade links. All of this contributes to economic growth. So, do migrants take jobs from locals? Do they compete with natives for local jobs? Does the presence of immigrants in the labor market lower wages? This depends on if immigrant skills are complementary or substitutable. Research from Western developed countries shows that immigrant labor is usually complementary to native labor, which means that in general, immigrants do not compete with natives for the same jobs. Where we do see immigrant labor as a possible substitute for local labor is when new immigrants compete with older groups of immigrants. According to research by Perry and Schaber, native foreign-born workers with graduate degrees work in occupations requiring distinctly different tasks, suggesting the two groups are imperfectly substitutable. Natives specialize in occupations demanding interactive or communication skills, while highly educated immigrants disproportionately work in occupations requiring quantitative and analytical skills. So what you can actually see is that in the labor market, immigrants and natives, even in highly skilled jobs, generally occupy different parts of the market. If we look specifically at wages, it is possible for immigrants to lower wages, but this is in very specific cases, and the effect is usually small and essentially close to zero. It is true, though, that immigrants themselves often have lower wages in general than the native population. However, this wage difference decreases over time as immigrants gain job experience in the local labor market and have more information about the local labor market over time. One important point to make is that there is a risk of brain waste for immigrants in countries of destination. Brain waste is when individual skills are either underutilized or not utilized at all. While both migrants and locals can suffer from brain waste, migrants are more likely than natives to take jobs below their skills and qualifications. There are several reasons for this. Some of the most important are that there is often no recognition of foreign qualifications, there are language barriers, there are different characteristics of countries of origin that matter. There is also information asymmetry and sometimes discrimination. Migrants also create jobs and expand the market for goods and services. One way that migrants do this is through entrepreneurship. First, just by virtue of having more people working in a country, this expands the economy because of not only the supply of new labor, but also additional demand for goods and services by the newcomers. Immigrants need housing, food, clothing, and services, all of which they buy in the new country. In some countries, immigrants are overrepresented in self-employment in certain sectors, like gastronomy, restaurant ownership, supermarket ownership, tech firms, and more. An example of this is that immigrants who have moved to the United States for study or work have been shown to be more likely to start new businesses than U.S. citizens. So an important contribution of immigrants is that they are often more likely to be engaged in entrepreneurship, which we know helps to increase economic growth and lead to growth overall. While there is still much more that can be discussed here, I hope this video gave you some more insight into some of the basic understandings of the effects of migration on hosting country labor markets. If you're interested in the effects of migration on the labor markets of countries of origin, you can check out my video on this linked in the description below. Please be sure to leave your questions in the comments and like the video if you found it helpful. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos that I upload every week, and I do hope to see you next time.